Kitchen renovations are a big undertaking, not just financially, though yes, there's plenty of that, but in terms of time, energy, and stress as well. The last thing you want, after going through all of that, is to reach the end of it with regrets. So I asked around and I went digging through design forums, Facebook groups, and Reddit threads, and I pulled together 12 of the most common kitchen design regrets. Some you might expect, a couple might surprise you, and at least one of them I can personally relate to in a very real way: playing it too safe. This one came up more than almost anything else, and I think it's worth starting here because it's probably one of the most common regrets, but one of the least talked about ones. People who played it completely safe and went for the inoffensive, nobody could object kitchen purely out of fear of getting something wrong. Worried about resale, worried about making a mistake, worried about choosing something they might go off of over time. And then they moved in, started using the kitchen every single day, and just felt nothing. Just a bit of an anticlimax. And I get it. I understand that fear. A kitchen is a big investment and the stakes feel very high. But your kitchen is yours. You're the one making breakfast in it at 7 a.m. You're the one cooking in it every evening. It should make you feel something good when you walk in. A considered, well-planned kitchen with at least a bit of your personality is not a risk. So please, within reason, do what you love. Life really is too short for a kitchen you feel indifferent about. Not starting the design process early enough. This one I feel genuinely sorry for people about because it's such an easy trap to fall into. And by the time you realize it's happened, it's often too late to do much about it. You're in the middle of a building project, an extension is going up, there's so much going on, and the kitchen feels like something you'll deal with once the big stuff is sorted out. The problem is, by the time you get there, decisions have already been made that affect your kitchen and can no longer be changed. A window that could have been shifted slightly to give you a much better run of worktop, a door positioned in a way that limits your layout options, a wall that's now fixed that you might have moved if you just thought about it earlier. If you're having an extension, especially if the kitchen is a big part of the reason for it, start the kitchen design process as soon as you have architect plans and measurements. Not when the walls are already up, not when the windows are in, as early as you possibly can. The building work and the kitchen design should be informing each other, not one of them having to work around decisions the other one has already made, following a trend blindly. There's nothing wrong with being influenced by trends. They exist for a reason. They reflect what's feeling fresh and exciting in design at a given moment. But there's a difference between genuinely loving something and doing it because it's everywhere right now and it feels like the thing to do. Because trends move. What's all over everyone's feed today has a habit of looking very of its time in 5 or 6 years. And your kitchen is going to be with you considerably longer than that. Hopefully. So before you commit to anything, just ask yourself honestly, do I actually love this? Or do I just love that other people seem to love it? If the answer is genuinely the former, go for it. If it's the latter, keep looking. Your kitchen should feel like you, not just a popular looking moment in time. Not getting the storage right. This one tends to show up in 2 very different ways. The first is not having enough of the right storage. The most common version of this is not enough drawers. And as I'm sure we all know by now, drawers are almost always better than doors for base cabinets. They're more accessible, more practical, and they're easier to keep organized. And yet, people still end up with a kitchen full of doors, wishing they'd just gone for drawers from the start. And the second version can actually be the opposite, which is too much storage. Specifically, too many full height cabinets. It sounds like it couldn't be a problem, right? More storage is more storage. But full height cabinets are visually dominant and they take up a lot of space in the room. And if you end up with more than you actually need, you've given up worktop space and visual breathing room for cupboards you're not even filling. So think carefully about what you genuinely have and what you genuinely need, not just the maximum storage you could theoretically fit in. Zero radius sinks. I'll be honest, when this one kept appearing in the various threads, my initial reaction was, really? That's your big regret? But I do get what people are saying, despite how very particular it is. Zero radius sinks, the ones with perfectly sharp square internal corners, look incredibly sleek and modern. But cleaning those corners properly, you basically need a toothbrush and considerably more patience than most of us have after a long day. It's one of those details where the design logic is completely sound, and then you're living with it every single day, and that one small thing quietly starts to grate. The easy fix: go for a sink with a slightly softer internal radius. Still looks clean and contemporary, but it's actually possible to clean without specialist equipment. It's a small detail, but it's definitely worth thinking about it. The wrong backsplash material. Another one that comes down to a choice that looked brilliant in the showroom and turned out to be harder work in reality. There seemed to be two main culprits. The first were heavily textured tiles. They look great, they add depth and interest, but grease and cooking residue settles into every groove and texture, and getting it properly clean becomes a real chore. And the other was small tiles with lots of grout lines. Because grout, as most people discover eventually, is really difficult to keep looking good. It's porous, it absorbs everything, it discolors over time, and no matter how carefully you seal it, it rarely stays looking the way it did when it was first installed. Personally, I think if you love a tiled backsplash, go for it. Just know what you're getting yourself into. If you hate grout, you could consider larger format tiles where you can. There'll be fewer grout lines and they're usually a bit easier to clean. Or what's probably most popular these days, look at continuing your worktop material up the wall, completely seamless and no grout lines at all. Not investing in the right places. This one can be a bit of a sensitive one, and I'm not here to tell you where to spend your money, only you know what matters most to you. But the pattern that came up in the forums was people who put a big chunk of the budget into one statement element. Usually the stone, the marble, the thing that photographs beautifully, and then had to compromise elsewhere to make it work. The installation quality, the everyday appliances, the cabinets themselves. And then they're living in the kitchen, the worktop looks gorgeous, but the cabinet doors aren't quite hanging right, or the oven takes an age to get up to temperature and never quite cooks evenly. It's worth asking yourself honestly, what are the things I'm going to interact with every single day? What's going to frustrate me if it's not right? Because a kitchen that works brilliantly every day and looks good will always beat one that looks stunning but quietly frustrates you in the day-to-day. Lighting as an afterthought. A simple, well thought out lighting plan can really transform a kitchen. Yet, it's still, remarkably, one of the most commonly overlooked parts of the whole project. People spend months on cabinet colors and countertop choices and hardware finishes, and then the lighting gets figured out in the final week with a single overhead fitting or a landing strip of recessed downlights all on one switch. And then they wonder why the kitchen feels a bit flat or too clinical rather than warm and inviting in the evenings. I say it all the time, but what you want is layered lighting. Ambient light for general illumination, task lighting, under cabinet lights especially for the areas where you're actually working, and some decorative lighting for warmth and atmosphere. And all of this with as much individual control as you can manage and dimmers where possible. A kitchen that can be bright and practical at 7 a.m. and warm and atmospheric at 8 p.m. That's a kitchen that works for every part of your day. Don't leave it as an afterthought. It's too important and too easy to get right when you plan it properly from the start. Dark worktops. Now, this is one I can currently relate to. I have dark worktops in my own kitchen. I didn't choose them, they came with the house. Now, I want to be very clear, I wipe them down regularly. Believe it or not, I'm someone who likes a clean kitchen, and yet they still, especially when the sun comes in at a certain angle, look like they haven't been touched in a week. Every crumb, every watermark, every bit of lime scale from where someone filled a glass, just sitting there on display. Dark worktops can look absolutely stunning in photographs and in showrooms, and maybe certain shades can work better than others, but in a real working kitchen with daily use, they can show everything, and your worktop is the surface you interact with the most. If you love that dark, dramatic look, and I understand why you would, consider where the darkness element of it goes. Too many open shelves. This was a very popular regret among the forums, and I want to be careful here because I do like open shelving. Used well, it looks great, adds personality, and keeps everyday items accessible. But open shelving as your primary storage solution, no wall cabinets, just shelves throughout, for most households, that becomes a problem fairly quickly. The dust that settles on everything, the grease from cooking that finds its way onto every surface, the fact that shelves simply can't hold as much weight as a standard wall cabinet. And then there's the display reality. Everything you own is on show all the time, needing to look presentable all the time. That can be a significant amount of ongoing effort. Open shelving works really well as an accent, a shelf or two for decorative pieces or the things you reach for and use every day. Just make sure you have enough closed storage elsewhere to handle the actual reality of what you own. Because the kitchen in the photo shoot with 3 beautiful plates and a potted herb is not the kitchen most of us are actually living with. Unless that really is you, in which case, you do you. Timber worktops. This was another big regret that seemed to pop up a lot, and I suppose I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with timber worktops. I love the warmth, the texture, the look of them, and the fact they're considerably more affordable than most stone options, which makes them really appealing. But they do come with some real demands, and I think people sometimes don't fully appreciate what's involved, at least until it's too late, and they're already living with it. Water is the weakness, especially around the sink. You'll often see darkening and staining develop over time if the worktop isn't properly protected and maintained. And the maintenance is ongoing. You need to oil them several times before you even start using them. And then ideally once a year, more so in the early years, to keep them properly protected. If you're someone who can stay on top of all of that, timber can be wonderful. But if you know yourself well enough to know that oiling the worktop once a year is the kind of task that'll sit on a list indefinitely, just go in with your eyes open, not speaking up with your designer. And saving this one until last because I think in many ways it's the most important. People who ended up with something they weren't fully happy with and realized afterwards that there had been a moment where they could have said something, asked a question, pushed back gently, said, "I'm not quite sure about this, can we look at it in a different way?" But they just didn't, because they didn't want to be difficult, didn't want to seem like they were asking too much, or maybe felt the designer probably knew best. And I really do understand that feeling, especially when you're not a design professional yourself and someone else feels like the authority in the room. But here's what I want you to know. It is your kitchen, it is your home, and this is a significant investment, not just financially, but in time and stress too. You are completely entitled to ask questions. You're entitled to change your mind. You are entitled to say, "I'm not sure about this. Can we explore it a bit more?" If a designer tells you something can't be done, ask why. Because in my experience, most of the time there is a way, and occasionally it can't be done really just means it would take more work to figure out and I can't be bothered. And honestly, that's not good enough for a project this size. Good designer will welcome your questions and work through them with you. While you're still in the process, nothing is a regret yet. It's just a conversation. So please, have the conversation. So, have you got a kitchen regret of your own? Something you'd wish you'd done differently? or something you're really glad you got it right? Let me know in the comments below. Hopefully this is the kind of topic where the comment section can be really useful for everyone watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one, where I talk about how to design a low maintenance kitchen. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.